In April 2016 I was 33, and the fittest I had ever been. Running 3+ times a week with 3 gym sessions and competing in obstacle course races regularly at weekends. On a pretty average Friday, I was working from home and booked in to have my Mirena coil removed and a new one fitted, which is a routine procedure undertaken in GP surgery. I attended the appointment on my lunch break and felt absolutely fine prior to the procedure. At the point the existing coil was removed, I felt pain like I had never felt before, but insisted the new coil was fitted after being given a moment to compose myself. Post-procedure, I felt awful whilst laying there, but was keen to get myself out of the doctor's surgery. I sat up and wanted to pull up my trousers as felt very undignified. I remember feeling absolutely horrendous and asking the doctor for a glass of water. I can recall what happened next so vividly, as if it were only yesterday. I was suddenly in a small room which was filled with people. The room was warm and hazy. The people I was with didn't have faces, which seems scary, or as if taken straight from a horror movie, but it really wasn't. In fact, I didn't notice that at the time, it was only afterward, when I was recalling the events and trying to describe those I was with, that I even realized this. Despite not having faces, the people felt familiar to me, and it was as if I knew them. It seemed as if they were standing in the shadows of the room and were in soft focus. They were repeatedly telling me I was okay and that I was safe. I wasn't scared at any point and felt very calm, fuzzy, and warm. I felt like I had been there for ages when someone started saying my name. The voice sounded as if it were coming from outside the room. I asked the people I was with who it was, but they were unable to tell me. The voice began getting louder and sounded more urgent. I kept asking, but those I was with were reassuring me, telling me not to listen or worry, and to stay with them as I was safe. By this time, my name was being screamed so loudly, and the person sounded really panicked. I really was becoming quite unnerved by this. I apologized to the people and said I would have to go and find them, as there was clearly a real problem somewhere, and they needed my help. In a split second, I had a moment of self-awareness, as if I had regained consciousness, and realized I was late on my side. I thought in that second that I must have nodded off somewhere, and someone was trying to wake me up. At that moment I had no recollection of ever being at the doctor's surgery. I opened my eyes to see a different GP within inches of my face shouting my name. She shouted, "Sam, do you know where you are?" My response without even thinking was, "I know where I am, but you won't believe where I have just been." The lovely doctor replied saying, "We know exactly where you have been." I glanced around the small treatment room to see 5+ doctors, the nurse, and 2 emergency response paramedics who had arrived in an ambulance. The defibrillator trolley was placed at the base of my bed. So, what happened? Well, they believe the removal of the coil caused me to become bradycardic, a heart rate of 40-50. Which is rare but can happen. But because of my level of fitness, my resting heart rate was 45 to begin with, so the reduction in heart rate caused my heart to stop. Thankfully they were able to bring me back using CPR. The experience didn't make me have any longer afraid of death, as I enjoyed being there. I felt warm and safe. What was most difficult for me to come to terms with was that I was more than happy to stay in the room with those people. Had it not been for the screaming voice, I'm unsure I would have regained consciousness, as it really was that welcoming. I did have a few sleepless nights following this, and some anxiety around not waking up if I did go to sleep, but this soon passed. A couple of days after this episode, I ended up at my local hospital as my heart was badly bruised from the CPR and was behaving erratically. Fortunately, there was no lasting damage and no underlying health problem was deemed as the cause, just a medical incident. I am now officially a medical statistic on the Marina Coil information sheet. Positives of this story. I totally re-evaluated my life. I stood down from a national director role, where I was away from home most nights of the week. I decided to marry my long-term partner, start a family, and write my will. We married in May 2017, 13 months after the event, and Ruben, our first child, was born in August 2018. The experience showed me that there is an awful lot more to life than work, but perhaps more importantly, that life is short, fragile, and precious. How and when we reach our end may be completely out of our hands, regardless of how fit and healthy we are.